Robert, what do you think is the end game for how celebrities monetize their fame?
I think being the face and co-owner of a product has been proven out to be like an incredibly lucrative, completely legal, and value creating way to monetize brand. And I think if you compare that to celeb tokens, which are at best zero sum, right, are not creating anything.
Robert, didn't you argue earlier on a show that meme coins were positive sum?
Dun, dun, dun.
No, I said meme coins in breakout successes could be positive wealth.
Do you think Iggy Azalea has created $200 million in wealth?
This is a lot harder to fathom.
Not a dividend.
It's a tale of two Quan.
Now, your losses are on someone else's balance sheet.
Generally speaking, airdrops are kind of pointless anyways.
Unnamed trading firms who are very involved.
I like that ETH is the ultimate concept.
DeFi protocols are the antidote to this problem.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Chopping Block. Every couple of weeks, the four of us get together and give the industry insider's perspective on the crypto topics of the day. Quick intros. First, we got Tom, the DeFi maven and master of memes.
Hello, everyone.
Next, we've got Robert, the crypto connoisseur and czar of Superstate.
GM, everybody.
Next, we've got Tarun, the Giga Brain and Grand Poobah at Gauntlet.
Yo.
And finally, I'm Haseeb, the head hype man at Dragonfly. We are early stage investors in crypto, and I want to caveat that nothing we say here is investment advice, legal advice, or even life advice. Please see Chopping Blocks at XYZ for more disclosures. So, boys, it's been a little bit since we've been on. It's been kind of a slow couple weeks. I feel like the news in this industry, I feel like it kind of all comes at once in the crazy deluge, and then it kind of slows down and gets really quiet. Feels like it's been a quiet couple weeks. We've got a few items that we're going to run through in the news today, but I just want to get a vibe check. How are you guys feeling? How are you guys feeling about this bull market? Where are we? What's the lived experience right now of going through this period of crypto?
Well, just to reverse engineer sentiment from price, today, and it's Wednesday for whenever you're listening to this episode, today was some great inflation numbers that came out, and markets across the board were extremely enthusiastic about it because people started to see light at the end of the tunnel of the Fed potentially being able to lower interest rates this year and get us back on track. And crypto was really exuberant for a couple hours. And then by the end of the day today, it was, a big sell-off again with, people left asking why and how on the sidelines, and sort of back to this very plateauish, I don't want to say stagnation, but it's been relatively quiet over the last couple of weeks. There hasn't really been any, significant breakouts in the asset prices up or down. It's been, very sideways sort of quiet existence for the last couple of weeks. And so, just to take a look at where the sentiment is at right now, it's kind of a lot of waiting and seeing.
There's only one fact I want to point out about an event that happened today that's related to markets, but no, it's not the one you think. It's the fact that the biggest news on crypto Twitter was Iggy Azalea going to the NYSE and shilling her meme coin. Like, that tells you where we are in the market.
And Kramer posing for a photo with her.
Yes,
I did see
Kramer.
that. I was like, okay, the angel of death has arrived. This is not going to bode well. For those who don't know the meme, apparently whenever Jim Cramer is caught on camera with anybody, it is the beginning of their downfall. So I don't know. Iggy Azalea seems to not have been aware of. I don't know why she would be, but she does not seem to be aware of that.
No, I think she wrote some tweet saying, I can't be canceled or cursed or something. It was like, she was like, I'm unstoppable.
I'm sure that's like her social media team that's like more clued in. I would have to imagine.
It could be her. I mean, she's been pretty with the, degen culture lately.
So, okay, let's talk about Iggy Azalea and Mother. So we alluded to this a little bit when we did our live consensus show. But so Iggy Azalea, if you recall, we talked briefly about Sahil, this character who seems to be crypto pilling a lot of celebrities. And Iggy Azalea was one of the people who Sahil, in his attempt to get all these celebrities like Caitlyn Jenner onto the crypto train, tried to get Iggy Azalea on board. Iggy Azalea was like, no, screw off. And she decided to launch her own coin without the help of Sahil, called Mother. And people have gotten now very excited. Iggy Azalea, who I guess is post her music career, she's no longer actively doing music. Now she's just a general influencer type. She has now fully embraced the crypto degen meme coin subculture that is Mother. But unlike, maybe Caitlyn Jenner, who is just kind of more generically, hey, token go up, pump, 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 up and to the right, Iggy Azalea seems to have really taken a very different stance toward the crypto community. So she's gotten very combative toward a lot of the crypto figurehead types. So she started talking a lot of shit to Vitalik, to Hayden Adams. She's called people like losers and had a bunch of memes of them like sucking on pacifiers or I don't know, kind of weird, picking fights with random people in crypto. There was one quote from an interview that she did with Thread Guy where she was talking about basically almost accusing Vitalik, saying, I'm just going to kind of paraphrase a little bit of this quote. I'm not mad at this man's opinion. I just question what you're trying to do with gas money. So it's rich of you to have an opinion about charities and hospitals. For the record, Vitalik was claiming that, meme coins could do more to be pro-social and to, give some of this to positive social causes. He said, yeah, it's rich of you to have an opinion about charities and hospitals or whatever the fuck you're saying. Let's talk about gas, the gas fees, the gas tax. Maybe some people should have an opinion. Sometimes I respect that you made something. Don't get me wrong, I do. But we're in a meme coin world and I have an honor in the way that should be approached, blah, 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 whatever. Almost insinuating that Vitalik is skimming gas money off the top of Ethereum.
Yeah, I think she genuinely believes that.
She also posted this meme. I figured for our YouTube audience, maybe it's worth showing. Can you guys see it? It's
yes. Why don't you describe what this meme is depicting?
Yes, maybe.
Vitalik,
so the meme, Vitalik is a baby who is being breastfed by Iggy Azalea, and she is intimating that she is his mother.
Because that is the name of the token.
Yeah.
So, yeah, really refined stuff that we cover on the show.
Well, let me tell you, meme coin land this week. You're talking about the market being slow. Meme coin land was not slow. There were so many C to D list celebrities who suddenly have been getting in on meme coinery.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan came out with meme coin.
Hulk Hogan, Andrew Tate.
That was a hack.
That was a hack?
That was a hack.
Hulk Hogan was a hack. That was not real. When Hulk Hogan regained control of his accounts, he deleted everything. So Hulk was a rug. Somebody hacked his account and then, which I guess is now like the best way to monetize a hacked celebrity account. Like it used to be, hey, send me ETH and I'll double it and send it back to you, right? Back in 2020, that was the way you monetize a celebrity account.
Yes.
Exactly. Now you launch a fake meme coin and then you just dump it onto retail. And then we just had Andrew Tate. So Andrew Tate, for those of you who don't know who it is, God bless. Andrew Tate is like a male supremacy hobgoblin influencer.
Not a great.
He's a very bad guy. Apparently he's like stuck in Romania because he's wanted for some kind of rapey charge, sex trafficking.
Also sex trafficking, horrible.
Yeah. And so anyway, he launched a meme coin in response to Iggy Azalea's called Daddy. And he's now picking a fight with
Ansem.
With Ansem? Yeah, with Ansem.
Wait, we really do have to get Ansem on as a guest. I feel like the problem is we're like the boomers talking about meme coins. We're the boomers translating meme coins for other boomers, and I think we need to go to the source. And
he's mainlining it every day. It's dangerous stuff out there.
Yeah. I would say we are like the Gen Xers who are explaining it to the boomers and trying to get the people who actually do meme coins on the show. It's tough. Yeah. So any thoughts on, okay, we've gotten to peak celebrity saturation of the meme coin story. And I agree with Tarun. It does seem like the only thing that's happening.
This can't be peak. There's going to be a worse peak. Trust me.
There will probably be a worse peak. That's true. That is true. Right now the market caps of these are still not insane. In objective terms, they're insane, but in relative terms, they're like kind of reasonable. So Mother is on the order of about 150 to 200 million market cap. I think. Yeah. And Andrew Tate's was about 100 million.
It peaked at 350. It peaked at 350.
Yeah. So it's been moving around a lot. She's managed to get some like real world integration. There's like some store that you can now buy something in Mother.
It's her store.
It's her store. It's like a merch store.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, she's starting.
There was like some. That was this telecom thing. I saw this like you can pay your phone bill.
Oh yeah,
Mother.
Yeah, she's starting. I don't even know how the crypto intersects with telecom, but simultaneously to launching this celeb coin, there's a telecom, you know, like a Boost Mobile or a Cricket.
Yeah, I think it's like an MVNO and you can pay with Mother.
Right. So she's trying to launch a startup telecom at the same time as this crypto and have them intersect.
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't that just create more sell pressure on the token?
I don't think that's the primary concern.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah, it's true. I don't think many people will use this. It's just like the narrative that it's getting integrated into telecoms. A telecom, yeah. Yeah, okay. So do we think that, let me ask a question just so we can actually have something to talk about besides just oohing and awing. Do we think that this is how increasingly celebrities are going to start monetizing their celebrity? Right? There was a moment where, celebrities will make money by doing what's it called? What's the app that got super popular in COVID where celebrities would like sing happy birthday
Cameo.
Right? There was an idea that maybe celebrities will monetize their fame using Cameo. They'll find all these little things that Patreon and things like this. Do we think that the future way in which famous people will monetize their fame is just come here and bet on me continuing to be famous?
No.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not? What's the end game? Robert, what do you think is the end game for how celebrities monetize their fame? Because cameos also had fall from grace.
So I think the highest value way is for monetizing fame and personal brand through like new business ventures, whether it's like a tequila brand or, a cell phone company or a vitamin water or headphones that gets bought by Apple, like whatever it is, like, I think being the face and co-owner of a product has been proven out to be like an incredibly lucrative, completely legal, and value creating way to monetize brand. And I think that's kind of like the gold standard in a lot of ways. And I think if you compare that to celeb tokens, which are at best zero sum, right, are not creating anything.
Robert, didn't you argue earlier on a show that meme coins were positive sum?
No, I said meme coins in breakout successes could be positive wealth.
Do you think Iggy Azalea has created $200 million in wealth?
This is a lot harder to fathom.
Robert is Robert is just afraid of getting beaten up on Twitter by her because she is fierce.
No, come at me, Iggy. Come at me, Iggy. Give me the word.
Okay, that's true. You might, actually, that's kind of win-win. Explain to me what's the psychology here? Why Mother is not wealth creation, but then Doge is? What's like the thing happening in your head? Okay,
well, Doge has a unique value proposition, right? Which is Doge was the first satirical, to my knowledge, satirical crypto asset. There might have been others that like were trial balloons for this concept.
Kanye West.
Was that before Doge?
I swore. I thought it was before, but I could be wrong.
Whether or not it was first doesn't matter. I get the idea.
But like Doge has a unique value proposition in which it was trying to be its own blockchain as a parody of Bitcoin and Litecoin and all the other Bitcoin forks, right? There's something innately unique about Dogecoin that there's not something unique about the 14th D-list celeb coin. And I think Dogecoin, for that reason, has a much larger permanence in like the societal, Wikipedia of crypto than, a completely continuing ununique list of C and D list celeb coins.
I think that's kind of true for even the things that you mentioned, though, right? It's like every meta eventually gets saturated. Like you can't really launch your own celeb tequila brand in 2024 because the market is like so saturated. And so if you're the first one to figure it out, great. If you're the first celeb to figure out you can sell an NFT or you can launch a meme coin, great. And then eventually when everyone tries to do it, there's enough demand, there's enough liquidity, and sort of the meta gets dry and someone's trying to find something new. Not that I think necessarily like alleviates your criticism, which is like, hey, at this point, maybe there isn't actually any sort of value creation, but like, I don't know. I just wonder like how much more demand there actually is for this kind of thing, or like, hey, if there's actually any more room to run, or if like this actually is the peak.
I mean, fundamentally, so going back to the idea that, hey, long-term celebrities are going to be, monetizing their celebrity off product endorsements. I mean, fundamentally, a product endorsement is just advertising, right? And if you become a co-business owner, it effectively gives you free advertising. So our advertising budget is now cheaper because, LeBron James owns this brand, and so he's just going to do it for free. So it's effectively subsidizing one part of the business cost, which is advertising. Arguably, it works for anything, right? It's not necessarily, consumer goods. It can also be a casino. It can be, anything else, right? And so in a way, well, a meme coin is also another good, right? It's a good that, you can imagine Bonk might have paid people to advertise, to airdrop some to KOLs to get them to talk about the token. It's also an advertising cost effectively. I don't know that Bonk did that, but other coins obviously do. So maybe it is not any different. And to Tom's point, as the meta is evolving, like it's Grimes for NFTs or Iggy Azalea for meme coins, there's always going to be the first few movers who end up finding this new good where celebrities are underpriced, and there is such a demand for distribution that being one of the very first ones to attach your name to something creates a lot of value. But it gets arbed away, and then, in 3 years, assuming meme coins are still a thing in 3 years, which who knows if they will be, but if meme coins are as crazy in 3 years from now, it might be that at that point, the only meme coins that matter are like, LeBron James and Kanye West meme coins, and nobody else can really compete.
I think there's actually like also this weird thing where the dream of crypto and this type of stuff has always been making revenue sharing more easy, right? Like if you look at like general revenue sharing agreements for, different components of a brand that is a person, it's actually super complicated, very hard to enforce, hard to get all the payments right, whatever. And somehow I feel like the meme coins are sort of like, in every good lie, there's a kernel of truth. I think the kernel of truth here is like, they want to get around that somehow. They want to get around actually having to think about how they're selling their likeness and just be like, here's a likeness, and I'm just, I can do what I do best and promote it. But yeah, they don't really solve the problem. They just kind of mask it. But I think there is this kernel of truth, which is like kind of what you're getting at, that there is something people want out of this, like from the side of the people making the assets. But I think by the time their market cap gets to 100 million, they forget about the kernel of truth behind it.
Or they make a new kernel of truth behind it, which is, integrating with brand new telecom.
I mean, yeah, or Andrew Tate. I mean, I feel like that guy's making like a meme coin a day or something. It's like it's not just one, right? There's like a bunch of them. Yeah.
Wait, are there? I had no idea.
Yeah, I think there's like there are at least 3. I had a lot of trouble. I'm going to be honest, it really made me feel old reading the tweet fight between him and Ansem, because I was like, I don't fucking understand. I just do not understand what is going on here.
Honestly, I thought the words were pretty easy to understand. It was a fairly straightforward fight. Yeah, I don't necessarily recommend following along, because I think it will make you sad. But
do you think there's anything venture investable in this space? Like, do you think like a degen purchase, is that like a good idea? Do you think like a pumped out fund, do you think that's a good idea? Are there other things that you guys are excited about backing, or is it just cheering on from the peanut gallery?
I think pumped out fund's interesting, because like it really does make it easy to use. And obviously I think they're raising lots of money, or close to, and so I think they have, everyone knows that they have figured out something quite important. I'm just more curious what like the next evolution of pumped out fund is. Like, I feel like pumped out fund is much closer to anything that the billions of dollars that were invested into blockchain games wish they could be, because it's like much closer to a real viral consumer app than like any of these things that raise hundreds of millions of dollars to be like blockchain gaming.
Out of all of the things that like fit this mold that I think it's unique with, it's the first like launchpad type project that's actually worked, right? Like, how many times have we seen from across the crypto industry some like, we're going to be a launchpad to launch other tokens or other projects or blah, 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 blah. There have been like an infinite number of them, right? And none of them have worked to the point of gaining like critical mass or, significant traction or product market fit. And what's unique about Pump.Fun is that it's the first launchpad, if you want to use that term, that I think has really broken out into critical mass. And I think
but the launchpad with a gamification element. That it's not just a launchpad that's like here's some free tokens that you can farm, right? Like I think that aspect makes it more like a game as well as a launchpad. And that's why I'm comparing it to these blockchain games that like they haven't been able to have user retention the way Pump.Fun.
Well, there's a lot of stuff to talk about with blockchain games, because if we're talking about user engagement, we've seen some crazy numbers being posted lately in the TON ecosystem. So there's two projects in particular that I think are worth us talking about. So the first is a project called Notcoin. We kind of passed over it previously, but Notcoin, I think they had some what was it, like 30 million users that were interacting with Notcoin. Recently, there's been a new project called Hamster Kombat. So Hamster Kombat is a Telegram-based game where it's basically like it's what's called a tap-to-earn game. And a tap-to-earn game, what you do is literally you install the app on your phone and you tap a big picture of a hamster. And you tap it and it gives you haptic feedback, and that's kind of it. And then as you get points, you can like buy things in order to increase your productivity and like go through this like kind of skill tree. So if you ever played like an idle game, it's kind of like that, except you're literally having to click in order to like get through the idle game. So I remember playing like Cookie Clicker long time. This is like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something that the first generation of this game was created. And so anyway, these games, this category of games has become incredibly viral. So far, Hamster Kombat has over 100 million users. Recently, just because of Hamster Kombat alone, TON has flipped Ethereum with daily active users. Something like, recently, I think just within the last month, they've flipped Ethereum for daily active users. Hamster Kombat has gotten banned in multiple countries. It's one of the reasons why one of the Telegram wallets, I think I just posted this on Twitter a little bit ago, a Telegram wallet became the #1 app in the App Store for finance, just simply because of not because of Notcoin, but because of Hamster Kombat. And so we've seen these incredibly viral games. There was a story about Iran trying to ban the game because people are like just playing Hamster Kombat in Iran all the time, and apparently it's, I don't know, haram or something. But so like,
wait,
this
it's illegal. I didn't know hamsters had so many rights. Hamsters have like almost dog level rights, if you're saying that.
I don't think it's for the hamsters. I think it's for the people who are addicted to Hamster Kombat.
Wait, but by the way, do you guys remember when Lightning, there was that like chicken thing that you could tip in Lightning?
Yeah.
You could tip Bitcoin to this chicken, Lightning chickens or whatever. And it was like the only ever used Lightning app for a long time. It was like chicken feeding. Yeah.
Do not remember this.
Pollo feed. That was what it was called.
Pollo feed.
You could like,
okay.
You basically could send
right
Lightning to this wallet, and they would feed this chicken, and then they would like show you a video of them feeding the chicken.
Amazing. Well, right now, I mean, I would say as a game, it's pretty thin. There's not a ton in the way of gameplay, but this so far has massively been larger than any other game we've ever seen in crypto.
This is closer to Pump.Fun than all the things that raise money under the guise of blockchain gaming, though. If we're going to be very honest, right? Because like the blockchain game things, like we're going to do StarCraft on the blockchain. Like, yeah, we're fucking right. Like,
Yeah, I will say this does kind of comport with my thesis that the blockchain game, quote unquote, that becomes successful is going to be perceived as a social problem. It's going to be the kind of thing that you're like, oh my God, this is horrible for the youth and they're wasting all their time with this like mind corrupting virus. And that's kind of, I mean, I don't know, not to throw any shade on people who like Hamster Kombat, but it is just kind of a, like, it's not like, oh, you're being immersed into this fantasy world and you're, having this incredible journey and, deepening your relationships with other people through your working together on some, task in the metaverse. Instead, you're just clicking a button over and over again and watching numbers go up.
That's what people like. They like number go up. And the number literally cannot not go up in these games. And I think that's kind of where the dopamine comes from. There's another story about Banana, which is currently the #3 game on Steam. And it's just a cookie clicker. But then, Steam has a Steam Marketplace. And so people are then trading the bananas that they're creating in Banana on Steam Marketplace for like $1,000. And so I think if it's like, broadly speaking, there's like a idle gaming cookie clicker revival, and like crypto is like one reflection of that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know where this is all kind of coming from. Some sort of societal malaise that wants people to have number go up.
Yeah, what is your diagnosis, Tom, for why people all of a sudden are playing these like brainless number go up games?
Maybe it's just a reaction to all of the really glossy AAA gaming. People are like, no, you know what? I don't want an immersive world that is too much to ask for me right now. I just want to click. And these are scratching that itch. There's always sort of the cyclicality of culture, and this is where we are right now.
Yeah, I just think there's always this like return to simplicity thing. And whenever that happens, like blockchains seem to win because they're low compute, generally simple. You can't do really complicated things. And I actually feel like there's this malaise. My diagnosis, which is like pure speculation, is there's some malaise in society coming from like the over AIification of things. There's like too many automated bots for everything. So like complicated games aren't fun anymore, and like the spam protection isn't working as well as it used to. And these simple games are very hard to like. The AI bots are just like not useful for, and it's actually some weird thing that like crypto is good for these types of things. And it has natural.
I
don't know.
We don't know
centralized.
how
What
many
think about
people are
centralized
airdrop
pump
farming.
fund?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Notcoin, right? Notcoin has a huge market cap. It's what, like a couple billion total market cap. So
yeah,
if people are
honestly, I was shocked
Hamster
when
Kombat,
I saw it on Avo.
Yeah. Well, if people think that Hamster Kombat is going to be a similar outcome or even bigger outcome, why wouldn't there be lots and lots of people, creating accounts just in case if they click a lot, that they'll get a big airdrop.
Yeah, click farms are definitely a thing. So I'm like, why would that not be especially true?
This is not even what we mean by a click farm, right? Normally a click farm, it means like you're replicating a bunch of fancy stuff to simulate a real human, to click on ads. Whereas in this case, like literally there's just mechanical clicking that you don't even need to emulate a human.
Yeah, I definitely think because there's been millions of people trained to be Sybil airdrop farmers jumping through hoops, it lends itself naturally to this activity where it's like, I'm going to get something for free by clicking and like doing a very light amount of work, even if it's a game like entertainment focused experience. And I think, it's why it's successful, right? And we'll probably see more of this, probably not as like unsophisticated, very simple games, but like eventually like, probably more interesting, more sophisticated, longer lasting entertainment, things that don't just like get super repetitive super quickly and like higher quality interactions.
Yeah. The thing about Cookie Clicker, I mean, this is a long time ago that I played Cookie Clicker, but the thing about Cookie Clicker is like, it's not a game with super high retention. It's a game that like you get very obsessed over for a fixed period of time, and then you hate yourself. And you're like, why the fuck did I just spend the last like 6 hours optimizing how to click a cookie as fast as possible? And then you like never want to look at it again. And so I sort of anticipate that that's what these click to earn games will look like.
Unless people are getting that crypto from it, in which case they're not going to.
Yeah. So like when they get that, because right now the anticipation is like, look, I'm going to click this every time I'm in the train, every time I'm on the toilet, every time, like any time that I have any free time. But once the airdrop happens and like the economics are kind of fixed, at a certain point, like you have to pay to play the game. Otherwise there's no, how can the economic loop fundamentally work? And, people will just be like, well, okay, now am I actually making money playing this game? But until then, like the hopium of what if I make a lot of money from all the clicking I'm doing while I'm sitting on the toilet, I'm sure is a very, very great way to get very large engagement.
Yeah.
That's my guess. But like, yeah, these clicking idle games, I mean, obviously some of them are continue to be popular, but they do seem like one of these things that they're sort of transient. There's not like a long-term cookie clicker community that's still playing cookie clicker, 10 years later. But the funny thing too about these games, to your point, Tarun, is that everything here could have been built in like 1995. There really is nothing that requires any innovation in technology. It's just like a static image that you're clicking on, and then like a, like if else trees of things that you can buy that automate your clicking. So, but okay, coming back to the point about airdrops, let's talk a little bit about the airdrop meta, because we've seen a continuation in this theme that we've been seeing throughout the year of a lot of the big airdrops being beset with drama. So if you think about almost all the big airdrops of the last year, there's been some kind of drama. So whether it's Starkware, Eigenlayer, there was, LayerZero, and then of course now ZK SYNC has been the most recent airdrop, which has also been embroiled in drama. So ZK SYNC, by the way, we're investors in ZK SYNC, and I believe Robot's an investor in LayerZero. So ZK SYNC, it's a zero-knowledge rollup. They announced an airdrop that they were going to be airdropping roughly 17.5% of the total token supply onto users of ZK SYNC, both Era and ZK SYNC Lite, which is the predecessor to Era. And this is a very large airdrop, much larger than the median airdrop. Most airdrops are around 10% or even sub 10%. So very, very dramatically large airdrop. And of the roughly 6 million wallets that had ever interacted with ZK SYNC, only about 700,000 of them qualified. So a little bit, 11% roughly of the users that interacted with ZK SYNC are going to be getting the airdrop. And they had a bunch of thresholds of like, you have to put some amount of liquidity, you have to interact with at least this many contracts. And they made a lot of people mad. So now some people were happy. I saw some mixed reactions, but there was a huge amount of anger, mostly coming from farmer types, right? And of course, everybody at this point has seen there's all these kind of farmer guides that are out there, and farming influencers and farming strategists who will like tell you, here's how to farm this and farm that.
I believe the technical term is KOL.
KOL, yes, correct. Nowadays, it is very true that almost every KOL has some kind of farming advice that they give to users. So anyway, so first you had this backlash, and despite the size of ZK SYNC's airdrop, a lot of the backlash was particularly focused around one, there being a large discrepancy between the smallest airdrop and the biggest airdrop, and a lot of real users who had relatively small balances or who didn't provide liquidity not getting any airdrop, as well as a bunch of Sybils that managed to get the airdrop. Now, then on the other side, you have LayerZero, who's still kind of in the midst of their drama. So I think we talked about this a little bit last time. LayerZero, their approach to their airdrop was that they were going to allow users to self-report. So they were going to do their airdrop in 3 phases. So first, if you were a Sybil, you know that you were acting badly in farming the protocol, you can self-report. And by self-reporting, you get, I believe, 15% of the airdrop you would otherwise get. And if you report somebody else, and you are sort of an airdrop bounty hunter, and you are a Sybil bounty hunter, you find somebody else who is a Sybil, and you report them, and your report is accepted, you get 10% of their stake. And then finally, the remaining users get their airdrops distributed. And so, Brian Pellegrino, the founder of LayerZero, has just been, for the last week, like trawling through all these reports of Sybils and people reporting other people's Sybils and blah, 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 trying to decide what's real and what's not. And he's gotten, I think, a mix of both enthusiasm and then criticism for how this whole situation has been handled on the LayerZero side. So it's all very complicated. The thing that strikes me the most, and I'm curious to get your guys' take on this, is that I can't remember the last time that there was an airdrop that was uniformly positive. Like, I don't know, maybe Arbitrum or something. Like, it was a while ago, the last time I saw an airdrop that people were just happy. And every single airdrop
people
now,
were happy about.
Yeah, Judo people were happy about. But that was really like before, I mean, that was what, September? Right? So it was more than 6 months ago. Like, what within the last 6 months of like a major airdrop that people have been happy?
Being the first in like a new ecosystem in some way that is like a new novel mechanism, like Celestia, Jito, there's a few of those that like really stand out as like they took a very different tact. I actually think, in the case of Celestia, I feel like they did this huge airdrop to developers, researchers, etc. And then literally everyone after that just copied that. And I think the problem is now the expectations were set by the first one, and expectations are only increasing, right? Because like, oh, I got this big Celestia airdrop because I wrote a piece of code in Reth in like a Ethereum client library. I'm expecting to get like 10 more, right? Like there's this like kind of ascending ladder problem of like, once you have it, everyone, and I don't know what to call, there's like a word for this type of thing that's kind of like,
hedonic
once you set
treadmill?
the expectation. It's like no, there's like a technical behavioral economics word of like this like conditioning thing where like you can't like U-turn on on salary expectation type of stuff. And it feels a little bit like that, right? Because like in the Celestia case, it was actually people who did a lot of open source software work got this thing, and now they're like, oh, cool, now I'm just gonna. And I feel like that you have to be the first, right? When you're like copying something someone else did, it's like you have to pay this premium for that.
I don't know if that. I think that's part of it. That's certainly the pattern, but I don't know if that's the cause, right? Because if you look back 6 months ago, when Celestia did their airdrop and when Jito did their airdrop, industrial farming was nowhere near the scale where it is today, right? It was like all that's really ramped up.
No,
it was still significant. It was. I don't think it's where it was today. I think it's increased a lot this year. And at that time
for Tia, but I feel like Tia was definitely industrially farmed, and then all the industrial farmers felt like, oh wow, why are the developers getting so much of an allocation, not us? That was like,
no, certainly. But I'd say like the number of people who are doing this has gone up a lot. Not necessarily the fact that there was always farmers, but the farmers were more sophisticated back then. There were fewer tools that would automate this stuff. There were many fewer people from emerging markets who were doing this. Like I think a lot of the farmers were more sophisticated because you had to be. If you're just like some random person in India or Malaysia, like how are you going to get the tools to be able to do industrial airdrop farming 9 months ago? But today it's actually pretty straightforward, and there's all these guides that people, they train people in different countries to just do this with very small amounts of capital. And so I think the one side of the market has grown a lot. The other thing that also feels true is that for something like Jito, or for something like a DEX, right, it's relatively straightforward to meter what is the activity that's supposed to produce the airdrop, which is, trade if you're on a DEX, or, provide liquidity if you're on Blur, or, whatever it is, right? Put in capital if it's a thing that requires capital. Whereas for a layer 1, for Celestia is a good example, right? What was the thing you were supposed to be doing on Celestia that makes you worthy of an airdrop, right? It's pretty vague. It's like unclear what exactly you're supposed to be doing. And so I think that uncertainty that naturally arises when you have a protocol where it's not clear what the North Star metric is supposed to be, that's actually valuable to the protocol. On some level, it's also, it was kind of true for LayerZero. Like people weren't exactly sure what LayerZero wanted to reward. Was it the number of transactions? Was it the amount of fees paid? Was it, was it certain corridors? Was it doing a lot of transactions for small amounts? And LayerZero, eventually they sort of told people, here's the thing we cared about. And I think it's like that big reveal at the end that ends up causing people to get really pissed off, is that they can't anticipate exactly what it's going to be. And naturally, all the people who mispredict what the thing is going to be get mad. But as long as, like, the thing that I think is most common is that when it's pretty obvious what you're rewarding, people don't seem to get as mad. Right? So like the DEX airdrops and things like that seem to be pretty straightforward.
I think that stuff also requires some like more skin in the game, and it's like you're actually providing capital, or you actually are paying fees to do trades. But yeah, it's like the other stuff is a bit more nebulous. Speaking of people getting mad, I really love this meme. I think it was from the zkSync Discord. It was today is worse than September.
I was dying when I saw that. That was so hilarious.
Tom, read this out to us. Read this out to us.
It's three Indian flag emojis. Today is worse than September 11th for India. We do not forgive. We do not forget.
You're forgetting the airplane.
Oh, the airplanes. 3 airplanes emoji, and then 3 angry face emojis. We do not forgive. We do not forget. And then 3 zkSync emojis. zkSync will regret messing with India. A bunch of cancel emojis, and this is reposted many, many times. It's it's great.
I mean, I feel like the whole ecosystem has lost the plot a little bit, right? In that you have all of these people that are gaming metrics, right, in order to get money. And the whole thing just seems a little bit convoluted at this point, right? Where no matter what, there's these brouhahas because, people didn't get the right amount of expected reward for the right amount of work. And all of the discretion is in, 1 or 2 people's hands, and it winds up being a mess. And, I just feel like at some point the meta is just going to shift entirely away from airdrops.
I think it's going to have to.
It's going to have to. Like, this system doesn't seem to work that well, for distributing a token necessarily. Like, there's got to be better ways to distribute tokens broadly, right? Than like this, black box, extremely aggressively Sybiled and gamed, airdrop system. It's like, it's a pretty shitty way of distributing tokens.
It's not adversarially robust, right? Like, there is no way in general, unless you have a very clear ungameable economic metric, like, fees paid or volume or whatever it is. There is no way to ensure that, yes, this thing is real when we have, literally pseudonymous accounts, and we have all these like really crappy heuristics that we use to try to tell whether people are real or not. And we know that they're messy. We know that they don't work very well. And the better the airdrop farmers get, the worse these techniques become, right? So it's kind of like, if you were doing this anti-Sybil stuff, 9 months ago, you could actually do a pretty good job tracking a lot of the Sybil activity. And it's a cat and mouse game. The Sybils get better and better, and they become more and more like real users. And as a result, any attempt to do Sybil filtering is going to hit real users and is going to let Sybils through, right? Like the error rate just gets worse and worse over time.
Yeah. So, just to complete the analogy, it's like, I don't totally hate all of this, work, and I'm using work very specifically as a word, for token, because if you look all the way back to Bitcoin, right, as like the first proof of work chain. I mean, there's obviously concepts for proof of work prior to Bitcoin academically, but like, if you think of Bitcoin's distribution as very simply proof of work to distribute the token, the entire supply of the token, it made perfect sense, right? That work is completely tied to the root of like what the project is in the first place, which is like providing security to the system so that you can like, solve the double spend problem and, have a currency that works. But like, there's very clear examples in my mind of proof of work for token being incredibly positive and incredibly successful. And I just feel like this current world, it's like, it's fake work, it's bullshit, it doesn't provide anything of value, it's all optics, it's not contributing to the broader, like, success of any of these projects. And that's why I think it's just going to have to evolve. And like, the teams that figure out how to more closely tie, the work to the distribution, to the actual point of the application or blockchain or whatever, the better. And I think, hopefully the meta evolves from here.
So there's a bunch of things that are kind of important to note regarding this. I was on, one of our guests' podcasts a few weeks ago, Gort, talking, and he's a POW maxi, and we were talking about POW versus POS, and in general, POS is always strictly worse. It's like a worse security model. It has a lot of problems with the fact that the final distribution of tokens is very correlated to the initial distribution. It's very hard to diffuse the token distribution comparatively. And part of the reason for that, between proof of work and proof of stake, is there's this property called dynamic availability, which means that I can join and leave the network whenever I want. And proof of stake, you can't do that, because I have to know how much everyone is staked in order to randomly sample from the set of validators to pick the next validator. If people are joining and leaving, then I might miscalculate how I'm doing that sampling. And so you have this problem in proof of stake where you have to actually lock the stake distribution for some amount of time. And I think airdrops are even worse than that. There's actually some nice research that is in other fields that in mechanism design that shows things that look like airdrops are kind of don't work. So I kind of agree, although I think don't work for distribution, like welfare maximization, which like suppose your welfare function
relative to what?
Relative to like what the optimal is. Like, let's say your optimal is like everyone gets equal distribution based on their contributions.
But I mean, practically speaking, how would you even measure what the baseline is, right? For ZK SYNC, what does it mean to allocate ZK tokens based on somebody's contribution? That's what the airdrop is attempting to be in some sense, right? It's obviously a very messy way and a very imperfect way of trying to measure that, but that's what they're attempting to measure with the airdrop. No?
Yeah. The point of kind of these theoretical results is more saying like there are very few objective like welfares you can take that you can actually achieve the optimum easily for by some type of iterative distribution mechanism. Like it's very similar to this proof of stake problem where like the initial stake distribution determines the long time stake distribution or how things look over time much more directly. And this is what I mean. There's this fact that there's like memory of the initial distribution is like really kind of a bad thing. You need to somehow get in more randomization. But I getting out of the weeds about this, I guess I think the thing if you look at fraud in a lot of different fields, like in gaming, fraud in Spotify stuff where people are like paying people to like their songs so they show up higher in the ranking algorithm. I don't think this is like a solved problem in many fields. I think it's this type of thing that like iteratively improves, and each time people are complaining about an airdrop, that's like a gradient step in trying to improve these distribution mechanisms. And I suspect that, it won't be this kind of like wholesale airdrop thing. It's going to in the long term, it needs to be something like more continuous, like over many rounds, and more random between rounds. Like there should be very low overlap between the rounds. And if there's, I think like people are starting to do that. I think a lot of the layer 2s initially did that, but then they kind of had this DAO governance distribution problem like OP and Arbitrum. So I think like in the long run, we'll find new mechanisms. I just think it's, people are going to be angry because they made $1 million on the first one. And then after every subsequent one, they got 10K and then they got angry. I feel like there's this expectation setting thing that's is fundamentally why everyone.
Yeah, the expectations get worse continuously.
Yeah, only worse.
Only
which
worse.
Is like,
yeah, I think that's right. I think on some level, there's also a little bit of a Faustian bargain that takes place on behalf of the projects that entertain these big kind of like the projects know they're getting airdrop farmed, right? It's like if you got these crazy metrics going on and there's not that much real economic activity on the chain, like you kind of know. LayerZero kind of knows, zkSync kind of knows, like, these projects know that there's a lot of farmers on the chain. And on some level, they know that it looks good for metrics. Like nobody wants to be, it's kind of like when public companies report these like bullshit metrics, like, community adjusted EBITDA or whatever, because it's just like, whatever. The people like this metric, so we'll report it. Obviously, we know that this is kind of bullshit. It's like, okay, this is just something that people made up, but everyone else is reporting it, so if we don't report it, like we're going to look bad. And so everyone starts reporting this like stupid metric that everyone thinks is stupid. And on some level, when you engage in this Faustian bargain to like allow airdrop farming to continue unchecked on your platform, what it ultimately does is it like the Faustian bargain is that those airdrop farmers, most of them will not get your token if you're doing your job right. And there's so many more of those people than of the real users that like are actually going to use your token post airdrop, that almost certainly no matter what you do after you do your airdrop, more people will be mad than happy. Like just by the raw numbers of it, right? Like there was just, everybody on Twitter has one account and has one ability to like or retweet. But the people who actually use your protocol, instead of putting in $10 on your chain, they put in, $1,000 or whatever. Not that obviously real users can't have $10 on a chain, but it's just true that by the numbers, the vast majority of people with $10 on a chain are Sybils.
Yes, they're doing it to get an airdrop. Like there's
exactly
0% chance that most of those users would have ever been using that chain if it wasn't specifically under the expectation of getting an airdrop.
Most of them for sure.
There's a small number of people in it for the tech who want to demo a brand new chain specifically to discern the technical differences and nuances of that chain relative to other systems.
And look, I don't think, and I agree with you. At the same time, I don't think it's useful to moralize and say the people who are airdrop farming are bad people or they're doing something wrong. It's like, no, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Like,
no, I didn't say that.
People are, no, I agree. But I want to make clear that I am not saying that either. I think that if you're airdrop farming, kudos to you. Go get yours. Like that's totally cool. That's, the spirit of crypto is if people are laying out some, economics out on the front porch, you are free to go pick it up. But I think at the end of the day, like this is the inevitable byproduct of both sides, right? Of the projects that are, kind of openly allowing the airdrop farming to take place and the airdrop farmers who are coming in and, kind of ruthlessly optimizing how they extract from the protocols, both sides get smarter over time. And that causes also both sides to get hurt more over time. So it does feel to me like, I could be wrong, but my guess of where this meta is going is that one, people make things legible way earlier than they do, right? Like Tarun, you made the point of like, oh, randomness is good because, the people in Celestia couldn't have predicted that you should be, doing stuff on GitHub. And if it was, it would have been gamed. I think that only works when you still have the element of surprise, right? And that was true with Uniswap. Sure. With Uniswap, it was all just a wonderful thing to wake up to. How could you have been mad during the Uniswap airdrop?
Really, that's surprising. We knew something happened. But you knew sushi happened. The Uniswap is like kind of a little bit weird because like of the sushi uni thing.
No, I don't think that's true. I think Uniswap was just an absolute. It really. I remember I was there. Like people were.
It is true. It is true. Like there were no bad vibes for the Uniswap.
Right. It's the first time it had really been done. No, it's the first time it had really been done since like 2017. Like if you remember, there were airdrops. Okay, Tron was an airdrop. Okay.
Yeah.
That I would say is a very successful one. Right.
Right.
There was a couple other airdrops of that era that were all stupid and did not lead to like sustainable projects that were survivors. Right. But like mostly since that long ago bygone era, like the just send tokens to every user was a forgotten concept. It was a lost art. Like, it hadn't really been used successfully in like 3-ish years. And so I personally remember it surprising everybody because it was like, oh my goodness, like projects do this. And it's like a good project that's already has traction and is successful. And like, there's something of like importance here. Like, whoa, mind blowing. Yeah. And then it ruined it for everybody else,
Yeah, no, totally. But I think like the further you get away from that, Janet, like when we were all babies and nobody had any idea that a project could airdrop to anyone. Ha ha ha! What a surprise! You wake up on Sunday morning and there's a chocolate under your pillow.
But let's be real. This happens in like all tech, right? Like if I think about even just like online ads, SEO is the same dynamic. If I think about social networks, there's tons of spam and fake. It's like this is an inevitable thing about the internet and the idea that identity is very hard to preserve. And I think we just have to accept that, like, hey, that's just the way it is, and we're going to learn slowly.
So this is interesting. I think there's two ways you can see where this is going. So one is, I think, what you're advocating, Tarun, which is cat and mouse game forever, which is the airdrop farmers and the projects just keep trying to one-up each other of trying to out Sybil and anti-Sybil and so on and so forth forever, and it's like this Manichaean contest. I actually don't think that's where we're going. I think where we're going long-term is one of two things. One is I think that people are just going to be like, fuck it. We'll just tell you exactly what we're going to reward in advance. And we're going to choose metrics that are ungameable. So whether it's liquidity, whether it's, just like, here's the thing we're rewarding. That's it. No surprises. Here's how many tokens are coming. And the tokens, get, I guess you can't do that for security reasons, whatever. But like, here's the thing that we're rewarding, and there's no surprises. Because if there are surprises, then people get mad, and then there's gaming, and then there's uncertainty. And it's like, I'm just going to remove all the element of surprise. Or two, we go toward full-on KYC to get airdrops, which is, I'm just going to break the crypto invariant. That's because already we're blocking on, like, if you're from Luhansk or from, Crimea, or if you're from US, you don't get the airdrop. So, okay, if we're already doing that,
or India,
how far away are we? Or India, or whatever. So yeah, like for some of these, like a large part of the developed world, well, fine. Let's just KYC and just get it over with, because we're basically trying to do that through the back door. So I would predict actually that we're going in one of those two directions, rather than that.
That's just so sad.
I don't think it can.
I just don't think the KYC thing works. I don't think the KYC thing is going to scale. And you're just going to have this problem where your distribution is even more concentrated.
How does it not work? Why do you say that would not work?
No. It's just not going to scale. You're not going to get this like crazy distribution of your asset. You're going to have this like highly concentrated to whoever passes the KYC and is like easy, first, and like has the most capital.
I mean, it's not that hard to pass KYC. I mean, like
trust me. I know a lot of
enormous...
industrial airdrop farmers after I went to Dubai and Singapore, and all I have to tell you is I would say greater than 50% of them won't pass KYC.
I'm not saying that airdrop farmers won't pass KYC. What I am saying is that if you are trying to do a
then who's replacing them? Who's replacing them? And who's this KYC magic set of KYC people who's going to magically want to take these tokens that isn't already doing it?
Well, I'm not understanding your question.
They can't pass KYC. If they can't pass KYC, also
well, of course they can pass KYC, but they can pass KYC with one account, and or the number of people they have on their team, right? So there's 3 people working at this airdrop farm. Okay, they have 3 accounts that can pass KYC, right? Instead of having 5,000 accounts that can pass KYC.
Yeah, I think maybe to your point, it's just a return to linear airdrops. There's this very nice idea that, one address is one person, which ideally we would love to have. And of course, in practice, that is not true. And so we apply all these little heuristics to try to filter that out. But practically speaking, it's not possible. And so I think I maybe lean more towards your first point, which is just it's a return towards, linear airdrops. And, that's just kind of what people come to accept. Even all the other airdrops have also been, linear airdrops. Proof of work, that's basically a linear airdrop, right? You get paid out proportionally to how much compute power you're providing. And so it kind of sucks, but I don't know. I think the KYC stuff is just somehow it's a third rail, and I just don't know if crypto people are gonna ever sort of sign up for it.
I mean, ultimately, KYC is what are we trying to do with KYC? It's some kind of proof of humanity, right? Some kind of proof of you're a real person. What we are doing with all this anti-Sybil stuff is we're trying to do a janky ass version of KYC, right? The idea is if I can see that you interacted with this thing and you're not connected to this many other addresses, then that probably means you're a real person, right? If this were a normal tech company and you were like, okay, we're going to try to tell these are real people by looking at all these weird signals of, the amount of activity and this and that and blah, blah, blah. You would just be like, okay, well, just, show us your credit card or give us a mobile phone number and we'll ring you and there's a hierarchy. I used to work in anti-fraud back when I was at Airbnb, and there's a hierarchy of what are often called frictions that you will throw at a user in order to verify that they are real. And the heavier the friction, the more drop off you're going to have, and the more annoying it is to users. So you really don't want to use the highest frictions unless you're dealing with a lot of money. So very low friction is send an email. And if they can verify they have a real email, it's not trivial to get a Gmail. It's not hard, but it's not trivial to get a Gmail. If you have a very low repute email account from I don't know, some one of these throwaway Proton Mail or something, then okay, that doesn't count for much. And then above that you've got a phone number, and above that you've got a credit card, and the very top of that list is KYC, right? Of a passport, a driver's license, something like that, some kind of government ID, because these are just the hardest signals to forge. And now I don't know that we necessarily have to go all the way there, but something along the lines of some kind of proof of humanity. And maybe it's a Humanity DAO or WorldCoin, or maybe it's something maybe it is straight up KYC, or maybe you do something part of the airdrop is done on chain in a linear way in response to some metric, and then part of it is some super cheap coinless sale, or something else that you can say, look, if you're a real user and you want to get this thing, come in through the front door if you want to buy it on one of these platforms. But it doesn't feel to me like the idea that you can do all those things at once is going to survive. I think that is what is not going to last.
I just kind of get the feeling that if you did airdrops by KYC, then you also just make it so easy for governments to be this is security, and now it's securities offering, and you have to register and blah 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 blah. It's I if we go down that road, crypto is so boring. I mean, they're not doing that for airdrops though, right? If we look at
the SEC has tried, hasn't it?
Yeah, but it hasn't worked. Right, everyone just goes to domiciles that are friendly to it, and I think that is the nature of this thing. I think the moment you go to this KYC system, then it's okay, well, give me a securities offering, because what's the point? You might as well do that. That's it really doesn't feel like you're doing anything new. Then you've gotten rid of the point of crypto.
Yeah. I mean, you can do it in a ZK protecting way such that you're not actually disclosing your KYC information to the token issue.
Yeah.
Right?
That type of stuff I agree there is a future for, right? Where I can give you a private credential that the contract can verify. I just think that like right now we're just not at the point that those attestations are in the, and I think they'll get there. But I even then I still feel like there's something missing in that scenario, because it's like you're still excluding a lot of people from. You
are. There's no system you're going to create that's not going to exclude people. But the system we have now is also excluding a lot of people, right? Like ultimately, when the Sybils are this good and this organized, like your precision and your recall just have to suffer no matter what algorithm you're using. And that's what we're seeing, right? That's why people are so upset, is that there are a lot of real users who have to be excluded from any sufficiently good criterion. And there are a lot of fake users that are getting in if you want any number of real users who can also get in. So when the arms race gets this heavy, there's always going to be losses on both sides. Unless you ratchet up your military, right? Like unless you start... If it's all bayonets, like, yeah, a lot of people are going to get hurt. If you bring out guns, all of a sudden the balance of war can change. Anyway, I guess we'll see. Yeah, I guess we'll see. It's interesting, but anybody who's airdropping in the near future, and I guess the other thing too, it's always unfortunate to see when a project goes through, whether it's LayerZero or EigenLayer or zkSync, doing an airdrop and it not being this like celebratory moment, but instead people just being mad and politicking and arguing. And, it's very much like government, right? Where like any bill, just the only thing you hear is people arguing and being mad. And it kind of feels like it's sort of what airdrops have become, is just this moment of people like, putting a project on public trial. It's unfortunate to see. But, anybody who is considering doing an airdrop in the near future, I guess I would just wish you the best of luck, because it's really rough out there if you are in any way attractive to farmers. It's like,
I feel like this is Haseeb singing ground control to Major Tom to all founders right now. It's like,
I mean, I'm saying to anybody who's listening to the show. Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's been a lot of lessons learned on the battlefield.
Ground control to Sybil Tom.
It's ground control to Sybil Tom. Yeah. I mean,
Sybil Tom.
No,
Tom's a good guy. Tom doesn't.
I remember right. One of the first meme coins, the only meme coin I think I've ever owned other than Doge, is Tom.
I'm honored. I didn't even know that. Wow, that's a great.
Is that the one you can redeem for a custom made meme?
A meme.
That is correct. Yes.
Oh, that has more utility than Mother. It has more utility than most of these.
Hey, can you buy mobile phone plan using Tom yet?
Not yet. Don't tell Iggy. I don't want to be put on blast.
Nice. I gotta say, I actually really like the Iggy Azalea energy, because like I do kind of feel like the point of this meme coin stuff is to show that in permissionless stuff, I don't have to donate to the charity or whatever, like in all the fights that was happening. And I kind of like it because it's just so blatant in your face, and like it shows you the trade-offs you make in permissionless systems, right? Like you can't have everything you want, and here's one example of that. And I think like I feel like the stuff is it brings out parts of humanity that you sometimes forgot existed, and it's always good to get the slap in the face.
You forgot she existed.
I did forget she existed, honestly. I honestly didn't know what she did. I had to look her up. I was like, that name sounds familiar.
Really?
I don't really know. I don't know. I listened to too much techno. I don't know. I don't know anything about Iggy Azalea.
That makes sense. She is. I will say the thing I respect about Mother and Iggy Azalea is that it's fun and chaotic. And that is very much the roots of crypto, is being fun and chaotic. And it's good to have projects that like get back to that core of what crypto is all about. So I respect it. Anyway, cool. With that, we got to call it a wrap. But thank you, everybody. And we'll be back next week. More news.